This particular evening, I went over to a friend's house, and we were in a romantic relationship. I went over there to use, to party. And I knew when I got there that I was already pretty anxious, and I had been in a bad headspace. Had been thinking a lot about suicide. I was tired of living this life. I just I wanted to be good. I wanted to feel good, but I didn't know how. And so this particular night, I go over to his house, and as soon as I get there, he starts telling me that I need to settle down. I'm too anxious. But I still go ahead and, begin using. And I took a couple of hits, and the drug that we were using is called methamphetamines. It's a very, very addictive, very dangerous drug. And I had been using this drug off and on for, like I said, about 20 years. And it was nothing new for me. I had used the drug the same way I had always used the drug. So it was the same as it always, had always been. But for some reason, this particular evening, I wasn't feeling right. And the person that I was with said, I don't think you need any more of that. I had only taken a couple of hits, like I said. And so he said, I think what you need is some of this, and that's marijuana, pot. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't want anything to do with it. And he was like, you need to calm down. You are really overamping. And I was like, I can't be overamping. I haven't used all day until I got here. And so needless to say, he gave me a hit. He blew it directly into my mouth, and I started coughing. He did blow a second hit that was like not a lot, but just a little bit, but still something happened. And I began to choke, asphyxiate. Felt like I was being strangled from the inside. I felt my airway closing so quickly and so rapidly. I was just struggling to breathe at that point. I was coughing, of course. I think I could see a little bit of concern in his face. So that made me even more panicked. But I could feel like my airway was just all but almost completely closed. I went over to the sink. I tried to get a drink of water. That was a really bad idea, because then the water was, I couldn't get the water down, and it was choking on that as well. And he helped me over to his couch. At this point, I could talk just a little bit in a whisper, and I'm saying, pray for me, please, please. What was happening inside of my body, if I could try to describe this in layman's terms, I'm not a doctor, but I wish I could explain. It felt like the feeling of panic and fear and terror combined with regretting that I had done that, truly regretting what was happening, the awareness that I'm dying. My body felt like it was every organ in my body. I became very, very alert and aware of while struggling to breathe. I remember he put the footrest up so that my feet were somewhat elevated. I'm crying out to God, and I'm saying, please, God, no. And really, I think this is probably something a lot of people who've struggled with addiction have been through before. We kind of, and I know we kind of have been in that situation before. We kind of push the envelope. And I think in the moments when we're using, maybe getting high seems more important. I was not in control of my body at this point. I remember just having this thought, I couldn't make my heart beat. I couldn't make my lungs expand and take in air. And it was this sensation of drifting away from the earthly body that you see. That something I was just really drifting away. And I remember feeling like I was in the corner of his room, in his living room, drifting away. And I remember holding on to his hand, thinking that would help me stay alive. And all of these things are happening so quickly. Life is draining from my body, or the blood's draining out of my body is kind of how I would describe it. down to my toes. And at that point, I remember like looking at my chest, wanting to see my heartbeat, but it did only beat one more time, very, very hard. And it was from that point, felt like my body was dead, but my brain was still alive for a moment. And in that moment, I'm praying to God, please, please, please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. Please let me stay here. And I'm thinking of my children and that I want to remain here. I want to be present for my babies. And so that was the last conscious thought that I had here in the earth realm. The next thing I know, my eyes just close and I open my eyes and I am in this atmosphere. It's like a room without corners. It's beautiful, this color of like lavender and opal, and it's shimmering, and there's three beings over here on my left. I didn't ask them who they were. It was like I already knew that they were angels, and they're beautiful, but yet I could see through them. I'm looking at them and it's as though I felt masculine energy and then feminine energy from both. But I'm not sure. There was no facial features or anything like that like we have, but there was a head, neck, torso, arms, hands, legs, feet. But again, I could see completely through them. And one extended his hand to me and offered for me to come with him. And I was like, no, no, no. And my first thought was actually just when I see this environment and I open my eyes is, thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice on the cross. Thank you, Jesus. And in front of me, this essence of love, pure, divine love. And it's huge, powerful, so much power. This is unlike anything could ever even describe properly, quite frankly. And I do my best, but it's love, and it's just permeating me. It's going into every cell of my body, and it's so divine, and it's everything. I know in that moment that I'm with the Father. I have no doubt about who this is in front of me, although I cannot see him with my natural eyes. In the background, again, that room that I'm in, it's completely in sync with him, and it seems to ebb and flow like with his movement. And I'm saying, please, please let me go back. Let me take care of my baby. I'll be better. I'll live the right way. I'll be who I'm supposed to be. I'm so sorry. So I'm me. My personality is still very similar, very dramatic. And his presence is so calm. And knowing, I felt so known and so loved and so special, like I actually mattered. I mean, like I actually mattered to the Father. I felt totally known, but I didn't feel condemnation. I felt so understood. And in this environment, we don't have to use verbal language. Everything is just, as soon as we think a thought, it's known. How incredible. The next thing I know, we're in a second environment, and it's outdoors, and we're up on some kind of platform, the Father and I, and I look out, and there's millions of people, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and they're just standing there waiting. And I lean over to him and I say, what do I do? And he says, love them. I'm thinking, I can do that. And the next thing I say is, but what do I say? And he says, the truth. Okay, I can do that. And and then the next thing I say is, well, what do I change? He says, don't change anything. And the final question I asked in that moment was, I said, okay, but where am I going to learn everything? Because I mean, they're waiting, and he says, it's already inside of you. It's already inside of you. And just to kind of stay there in that space, I just want to kind of describe what I'm seeing. So it's daylight. It's a nice day outside. I see millions of people and they're standing there shoulder to shoulder, just squeezed in there. There's no room to move at all. And it seemed like everyone was wearing the same thing, but no one looked alike. It was the faces of actual people. And I know that's true. But every type of person was there. Everyone was represented and nobody stood apart. There was no one that was separated from this group of people. And I knew it was like I had this revelation knowledge that he loves all of these people equally. Back into the first environment, that beautiful lavender opal environment that seems to be alive. In the next moment, it's like I'm pulled into his spirit, like literally pulled inside of him. And this is when I remember looking at my hands and being able to see through myself, being transparent, like those beings were in the beginning of the experience. And I'm looking at myself and I'm realizing, and it's like this understanding that I am more than just the body that I've been seeing, that there is more than this animated flesh that we get to see every day. And yet I saw within him all of these other people, these millions of people that were literally inside his body too, going about their day, doing their regular things, and they're inside of him. And it was like, I was so infused with his love during this period of time. I began to feel this compassion for people that were involved in circumstances in my life. It was like I was seeing how precious and how loved and the potential within us that we're unaware of so often, and had an understanding of things that happened to me in my past and how they were traumatic events that had happened in my life. But it was like I was seeing for the first time how there was a bigger picture, that there was so much more to those experiences than what I had personally known about. And I was just filled with compassion and filled with love for all of these people. The details, believe it or not, I still remember details. They still come to me periodically. So now I know that I'm getting to come back at this point, but I'm enjoying this experience. And then I'm back out of his being. And then boom, that fast back into my body, gasping for breath, gasping and saying, Jesus is real. Oh my gosh, I'm alive. And Jesus is real. And the person that I'm with, his face was like, he went white. And and I began to say, like, ask me some questions, make sure that I'm okay. So from this night, my addiction was taken. Normally when I would try to get clean, I would have weeks and weeks of just trying to get straight, trying to get my head on right, trying to get caught up on sleep. And it didn't happen this time. So much was taken out of me. I also had so much anxiety and depression and fear and self-loathing. All of that was just gone immediately. I can honestly tell you that the person I was, the woman that I was that night, she's gone. She did die. I'm similar. I'm the same, but if there is something the Father does within us where it turns off our interest in all of the harmful things of the world and turns that interest off and then turns on a pure passion for him, a pure love for his word and his ways. It happened in that moment, in those moments. Loving people is not as easy as I expected it to be. I thought, oh, sure, I can do that. And so in learning how to do that, I have been given so many opportunities to love people in an unlovable state, but yet see them as who they're becoming. It's so amazing to me. His love is the most powerful thing that we could ever imagine. And it's his love that has healed me and brought me to where I am. Knowing that he loved me, knowing that I was in the presence, when the Bible scared me because it said something, it was his love that I remembered. When I thought that I wanted to go back and do some of those things, I knew that nothing compared to his love. And so honestly, that's how I love others, is just by sharing his love, the story of that love. When we're at that crossroads, just know that nothing can compare to the way that he loves you. No fleeting temporal pleasure is going to give you what the Father has in store for you, what he's already set aside for you, what belongs to you through the sacrifice of Jesus. Ultimately, love wins, and it's already won. It's a process to getting there.